Welcome to another episode of Black Screen Finance. My name is Ralph.
My name is Nikas, and this week's episode we're going to be discussing how to set up your kids for financial success.
Mentioned earlier in the episode, today we're going to talk about setting up your kids for financial success, which is huge. I'm nobody's dad right now, but at some point later down the line we'll look at doing something like that.
You sure, bro?
As far as I know, I'm nobody's dad. I have no kids, but I know this is something that's near and dear to Nikas' heart because he just recently, or his son's about to turn 1 year old pretty soon, which is pretty good. It's pretty good. It's huge. So I know this is something that's important to you. Just tell people why it's important to you.
Yeah, I feel like it's important for any family, to ensure that they're setting up their kids for success. So for me, like you said, my kids about to be one, so it's huge. And for what I looked at is, how can I make sure that I put him in a better financial predicament, as he grows. So, I discussed it with my wife, and, we kind of did a lot of research on the topic. And, for me, I asked a lot of questions, with everybody that I potentially know that was a parent that I came in contact with. I started asking them questions like, what are you doing to ensure that your kids are good financially? And for me, to my surprise, like a lot of people, that was like, they're dumbfounded by the question.
You didn't know what to do?
Yeah, so their idea of setting up their kids for success was pretty much just ensuring that they instill the right disciplines, the right morals, teaching them right from wrong. And I was just like, no one really, you have a few people, but the majority of the people weren't really like, what, I did this. This is how I set up my kids. I have this or that.
Nothing tangible.
Correct. So for me, I was just like, wow, I don't want my little man to be in that predicament, right? So I want to make sure that his life is a lot better. And then, recently we, a producer, the guy who's behind the camera putting everything together for us, we celebrated his daughter's christening this past weekend. And I was just like, we got to do an episode to ensure that, not just for us, but for other people, that we're showing them ways that they can help ensure that their kids are good. And as a group or as people, we're bridging that financial gap for our kids, on a long-term basis. So, that's why for me, I think this episode was really important for us to execute.
That's huge, And what we're going to do, we're going to take the time out there, the producer come on in and kind of give his portion of the story too, in terms of why it's important for him also.
Nice.
All right, so Ralph will be back. I'm just taking over for a little bit. But for the ones who don't know me, my name is Delano. For the ones who do know me, surprise, I finally make it on screen. But
yeah, and welcome, man. It's a new. It's been time for you to show your face. And also, for you, man, and I know you're a dad. We have a lot of conversation around making sure that we're taking care of our kids, we're being the best dad we can be, and also as Jamaicans, we're making sure that we're being good dad for our kids.
Represent.
Representing, right? But for you, man, kind of educate us a little bit. What was it like, or what does setting up your kids for success? What does that mean to you? What did that look like when you first had Skylar?
So while we were planning on mapping out the episode, today's episode, my understanding of what setting up your children or your kids for success looked like was making sure you still instill good morals, make sure they go to school and, provide a roof over their head. And, where that formula, did help me in some ways, while we were doing our research, I realized there's so much more that we could do.
For real.
So like, for what success for me looks like is making sure when my daughter get older, she's not in certain financial burden, like, worrying about student loans, or, they can't even get a proper dream job that they want to, because they have to rush back to pay all this debt that they borrow from either going to school and get a credit card, paying that hefty student loan like I mentioned, and just like, overall everyday life.
Yeah, and these are some of the things that we'll definitely cover in this episode, because I think, like, like you said, like, a lot of people, they'll have the degrees, and you guys will see that, but at the same time they don't have the jobs, or they're not even remotely close to the job that they went to school for. They're not doing that job, you know. So at the end of the day, like, you know, we're gonna be diving in a little bit deeper, you know, where tuition and student loans and stuff like that is concerned, and how you guys can kind of, you know, help to bridge that gap as well.
Definitely. And again, it was a pleasure being on the camera, but let me give back this man Ralph his job, because it's not as easy as I think it was. So I'm out.
One of the big questions that I really wanted to ask, you know, for everyone that's a parent or aspire to be, you know, a parent, is how important is your kid's future to you? You know, how serious, how committed you are in ensuring that you're setting up your kid for success. I think that's the fundamental question we have to first ask yourself.
Yep.
And then once you ask yourself that question, then you start ensuring that you do the research, you put the work in to figure it out, right? Because it's your responsibility at the end of the day to ensure that you're setting up your kids for financial success.
And see what best works out for you.
Yeah, and even if you look at it, like, you know, recently, like in the market, a lot of like the big, you know, celebrities and people that we aspire, we look up to or emulate, or whatever the case is, you see they're making some big moves where they're putting their kids first. Like, you know, for one of the DJ Khaled, right?
Oh yeah.
You see that, you know, his son, like, you know, is like the executive producer for one of his albums.
Yep.
You know, his son has his own Jordan brand, you know.
It's like a car, or like a
yeah,
thing
he has
for
his
cars
own,
or something, for toys.
Yeah, he has his own brand for that too. You know, so these guys are really like putting their kids, you know, at the forefront and ensuring that they set them up for long-term success. But at the same time, you don't have to be in that status, right? You can literally, it's all a mindset, to be honest. It's how you look at it, how you view it, and how you break it down and try to stay in your financial lane. The same thing we preach every week on our podcast, right? Stay in your financial lane and then make your situation work for you. So at the end of the day, when we looked at it, right, the student loan debt right now in America is $1.6 trillion.
Wait, bro. say that one more time.
$1.6 trillion.
Yeah, dude, that's
man.
crazy, man.
You know, and then
that's
like for the
crazy.
average person, you know, when you break it down, it's like, you know, 35,000.
Yep.
You know,
That's
so
a
we
lot of
really took the chance. Like, if you really broke it down, like $81, right, bi-weekly. Every time you get your paycheck, you literally take $81 out, you put it aside. You know, over 18 years, you know, that's going to be 35,000 right off the rip.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can do better than that. But I'm just saying, if you're conservative, you want to play safe, you just put that aside. You know, you'll be able to have 35,000, you know, over the course of 18 years. But at the same time, you know, we got our guy Ralph, you know, who's going to kind of break down and kind of, you know, come up with some more strategic and creative ways that you can literally make, you know, your money work for you.
Yeah, so, you know, one of the big things for me, I'm really huge into stocks, so I'm just trying to continue to advance myself in that space. So I just picked one of my favorite companies to kind of talk about today. So if we were to work with that 18-year span, right? So if your kid this year is going to college, for example, if we were to go back 18 years, we'll be at 2002. So in August, as of August 2nd, in 2002, Apple was $1.02, right? That's crazy. So if you were to take out $1,000 at that time and invested it into Apple, basically that would be able to get you 970 shares, right? As of today, Apple was about $463 at one point. I think it ended at like 458, 59 or something like that. So if you do the math in terms of what the growth of that would have been, you would have easily gotten, the math is about $440,000.
Wow.
Right? And you just taking out $1,000 at that time.
So let me ask you a question though. A lot of people are gonna be like, well, what? How am I gonna predict the next Apple by them at $1, right? You know, so at the end of the day, you're still not really giving me game, right? So what do you say to that?
No, I mean, there's still things out there, still companies out there you could actually, you know, invest in. And Apple right now is actually going to go through a 4-to-1 split again, right?
True, that's going to be big.
Huge. So they're $400 and something dollars right now. After the split happens, they're going to drop down to $100 and something dollars. That's still money that you could put into that company, whether it's $1,000, $2,000 or whatever, and just let it ride out for 18 years, you know?
Yeah, and then, like, you know, to your point, as long as you're actively, you know, a lot of the companies that we use frequently or we've seen been around, we call them like the blue chip company, right?
Yep.
You know, just literally just as you get your money, just put those things and let them sit aside. Like, the market, it goes up and goes down, but long term, if you look at it like, you know, the S&P 500,
Yep.
you know, it's steady. It's a steady ride up. So at the end of the day, literally just put those things in. If you buy Apple every so often, just buy a share and put it aside. You know, you don't have to buy a lump sum right away.
Absolutely.
You know, buy a share, put it aside. Buy a share, put it aside. Just keep buying and put it in there. It will go up and it go down, but over time,
You'll win.
You definitely see some serious gains.
And you could, just like Nika said, you don't have to do everything all at once. If you think about it, you know, how many times will you have birthday parties for your kids? How many times will people give you gifts? Or even for like baby showers, like I've seen it where sometimes I take the lazy way out, and instead of going out and buying a gift, I just show up with the check.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or with an envelope with $100 or $200 or whatever as a gift, when you could take that money and then, you know, put it aside, and when you have enough to buy that stock, you just throw it in there.
Yeah, and that takes discipline too, because, you know, a lot of people, they take that money and they
true.
use it for, you know, different things. So at the end of the day, if you're not structured the right way financially, remember, you can always, you know, send us an email, you know, and ask us for our black
screen budget sheet.
You know, we send that over, help you guys to create that structure, you know, because at the end of the day, you don't want to have that money on hand and it's too accessible, and then you start using that money. And then also, there's a couple other ways that you could definitely, you know, leverage to ensure that you're setting up your kids for success. There's the I think it's the 529.
Yep.
And then you have like the UGMA. You know, so these are things for the 529. This is like a government, you know, savings account where you can help save and put money aside for your kids, you know, long term, for like tuitions or anything regarding to college, right?
Yep.
At the end of the day, that's something you can take advantage of. The UGMA is pretty much like a custodial account.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, you put money aside. You know, as a parent, you don't have the right really to go in there and tamper with that money. So when you get that money, if you don't trust yourself to know that, okay,
hey, yo, Nikas, I need to hold that down for me.
You know, on those tough days when you need money, you're not gonna dip into that fund. You know, you can set up those accounts, because those are custodial accounts. You know, only the kid, when they reach between 18 or 21, they have access where they can kind of go into that fund.
And that's huge. And the thing that I want to stress, just to make sure that we all are aware, is that you know, the money is going to be there and it's going to grow for the child. The biggest thing is going to be for me is that you always don't want to just think college, right? So because there's multiple different ways that the kid could take advantage of that, you know, because college is not for everyone. So if your kid wants to, you know, get a trade and learn a trade and do that, they could start their own business. So if at the end of the, you know, that period of where they're mature enough to now go ahead and take that money out, if they're ready to go ahead and just go out there and, you know, start something, they have the funds, the startup funds, to go ahead and you know, build that. Right. So don't just think college. There's other ways that, you know, people have been able to go out there and succeed in life, whether it be school, whether it be, you know, a trade, whether it be, you know, stocks, investing, or even just starting their own business. That money is there for them, for their financial future. Hopefully, if you taught them the right things and, you know, give them all the right principles to go forward in life in terms of being able to build themselves successfully financially.
Yeah. And like I said, there's a multiple ways that you can kind of do this. I know I was talking to my wife the other day, and she bring up like a brilliant idea. She's just like, are you familiar with, like, you know, tax lien on properties? Mm-hmm. I'm like,
wait, before we get that, what are tax liens on property, so that everyone understands?
Yeah, so that's pretty much where, you know, you have two things. You have, like, for individuals who they're in financial hardship, right, where they can't pay the taxes on their home. You know, so say for instance you live in Bridgeport, your taxes for the year is like $8,000 on your house, $9,000 on your house, right? And you have a lot of people where they're not escrowing that money, where they're putting it in one lump sum, and then the bank will pay for them, or whatever the case be. They've decided that they want to pay the taxes for themselves.
Okay.
So now they're not paying their taxes. So as a result, now there's you know, the ability where, as an investor, you can go in, you can pay that taxes, you know, for that individual. So what happened now is, for the year, you get the ability where you get a percentage, and it differentiates based on the state, right? So at the end of the day, you pay this individual taxes, and then now, and toward the course of the year, like, you're getting a percentage on interest on your money. Nice. You know what I mean? So it's pretty cool. But also, the cool thing is, if that person is don't have the ability where they can pay you back, now you have the chances where you can potentially own that home as well.
That's major, bro.
You know what I'm saying? And this is like an industry that's really getting a lot of traction. And then also, you know, you have tax deed as well. You know, so you know, so tax lien and tax deed. But these are opportunities where you can literally start setting up your kids, you know, for long-term success just by investing in these things. Obviously, do more research on the subject, but these are other strategic ways that you can literally invest money to ensure that you're growing your account, for your kids long-term. And like you said, I love the point that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Not every kid wants to go to school.
Yep. It's not for everybody.
And then there's a lot, but at the same time, if you look at it, especially in our era right now, there's a lot of kids, man, that they're doing some phenomenal stuff without having that master's degree or having that bachelor's degree. They're literally going out and starting six-figure businesses, right? So at the end of the day, like, this is an opportunity where you can give them at least the start that they need, so they can scale or at least attempt something, right? So at the end of the day, we're just giving you guys, ideas, ways, and at least start to stimulate that mind where you guys start thinking like, wow, if you weren't thinking before,
you're thinking it now.
You don't know what you don't know.
Yep.
So now you know.
Absolutely. And if you knew better, you do better. And that's exactly what we're trying to get to.
But at the end of the day, man, as a whole, our goal is to ensure that we're bridging that gap that exists, and the only way we're gonna do that is by taking full responsibility, where we're not putting our kids in the same predicament that our parents put us in, where I know pretty much more than half of my people that I hang with, they are in student loan debt, right? And then now these same individuals, ask them like, what are you doing to ensure that your kid are not in the same predicament when they grew up crickets.
No answers.
You get what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, now, like, these are small things that you could do. And I know that you guys, whether it's entertainment or things that you guys love for yourself personally, you find the money to spend on those things, right? So, if you, like I said, and that's why I asked the question earlier, how important is your kid's future? So if you guys are really important, you value your kid's future, you can kind of scale back and start putting money and putting resources in to ensure that they have at least the necessary funds or money to scale, when they grow up.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys for watching another episode of Black Screen Finance with me and my boy Ralph. We do appreciate you guys. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to email us. Also, a lot of the information that we covered in this video will be in the description below. You guys can click it and read more on the material and familiarize yourself. Also, if you have a question, again, just reach out to us. Ralph?
Yeah, we're huge on self-learning, so don't just watch this video, just watch the video and then gain some more knowledge by actually accessing those links. But do us a huge favor. Now you know what I'm going to say, right? Like, share, and smash the subscribe button. Thank you again. We really appreciate you guys.